Namaskar. Welcome to another edition of the Saraswati Sangam Project Leadership Dialogue Series. Today's topic is a very interesting topic that we would actually need to define a little bit carefully to create the meaning and the context for it. And the topic is intentionality in life. So, since I said we would need to define it to create the context, I'm going to start with asking the defining question to Dr. Shrikant. Can I put this to you in terms of how would you define intentionality?
Namaste, Aparnaji. Great to be once again back with you, and welcome to all our audience. To define intentionality, if you look at the simple dictionary definition, it is defined as performing an act with a purpose and with clearly defined goals. But let's look at the meaning of intentionality a little bit more in depth. If we look at the definition from a philosophical point of view, intentionality is referred to as features of mind, and these could be beliefs, perceptions, or desires directed towards something.
Mhm.
And these could be an idea or an object or a state of affairs. Now, this definition I understand is a bit abstract. Not only is it abstract, but it is also incomplete,
Mhm.
because I think it is important to view this definition against the fulcrum of the Hindu and the Vedic school of thought. The Hindu and the Vedic school of thought does not focus on any one term, but it focuses on various key concepts, such as sankalpa, vows,
Mhm.
or icha, the role of the intention, while performing one's karma, duty. So this definition may still sound a bit confusing and abstract for our viewers. So Aparaji, I was wondering whether you could talk about how intentionality relates to life so that our viewers can understand it better.
You have done an excellent job in making its meaning in the principle clear. And in practice, to connect in principle, you have to really just look at the word intention. And the sankalp and the ichha reference you gave is really in the English consolidation of the word intention. What are we trying to do and what are we trying to achieve is what defines the intention. And intentionality is the intention of what it is you're setting out to do. So in life, throughout our lives, every day, through our choices and actions and decisions of how we use our time, we are demonstrating either presence of intentionality or, sadly, absence of intentionality. And the topic we have selected today is to highlight the importance of the need for presence of intentionality rather than absence, so that at every stage of life, a human, a person, can achieve what they are setting out to achieve through the ichha, the desire to achieve what they wish to achieve, through the determination, sankalp, of what they want to achieve. So, intentionality is a very conscious recognition of something that you want to do to achieve something, and it keeps changing in different stages of life.
Good that you mentioned about it changes with the different stages of life. Can you talk a little bit more about how intentionality applies to different stages of life or relates to different stages of life?
Absolutely, I would definitely want to do that because you actually planted that thought at the very beginning of defining intentionality in dharma, in the practice of our values and teachings, and even in the sense of what our dharma, our tradition, talks about the goals of life. Every human life has a goal And that's what dharma defines. And when we say at the stages of life, in our beautiful heritage, we don't have to do very much of our own thinking because our great rishis and our great thinkers have done that deep thinking and deep thought given to us in the form of intentionality through stages of life, encapsulated in sanskars. Now, sanskar word can also be used in a very commonplace way of the values our parents and our family members give us in how to live our life. But sanskar is also a very formal process by which intentionality of life at different stages can be instilled. And our great rishis have defined essentially 16 sanskars to take a human life from conception to the last stage of life, noting that through these 16 sanskars, the intentionality of each stage of life is established, noted, acknowledged at individual beings level, individual person level, but also very, very importantly, at the familial level. How the parents are playing their role in a child's upbringing and ability to fulfill their life's purpose. How our education system, the gurus, are playing a role in instilling that intentionality, sanskar, in how a growing young person can learn how to live their life in discipline, in gaining knowledge, and so on and so forth. Similarly, as an adult, when you create your own family unit, when you set out to raise your own children, bring your own children to the world, and raise them, that's another very, very important sanskar where you're learning how to behave with intention to serve the purpose of your life in that stage. So that's how I would bring the concept of intentionality to our understanding of how we lead our life with very clear purpose, definition, and the choices we need to make. So, given that I have pointed out this reference to sanskars, and we both have seen, and all our audience members would have seen different sanskars performed for people at different stages. What is your sense for what are the popular ones in the present time?
According to me, I think the most popular one is the Vivaha Sanskar. I think the Vivaha Sanskar, as we know, for most Hindus, it's a very important and a sacred part of the Hindu weddings. It is sacred because it is essentially about lifelong commitment and the vows the couple take towards each other as as the spouses. What has unfortunately happened is in the recent times, the Vivaha Sanskar has become very cosmetic. It's been pushed to the background. Instead, what we find is people are focusing more on how much are they spending on the weddings, who is on the special invitee list of the weddings, where is the wedding taking place, and even amongst the couples, you know, what is going to be their choice of location for their honeymoon, right? Because I think people are looking at wedding to make a social statement, and I think people have gotten under this misconception that a happy wedding is a happy marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it follows that way.
Right.
Happy wedding is much easier to do, but happy marriage is a lot of hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, I think this trend is also because of the entire, I think, tendency on the part of the Indian community or the Hindu community to ape the West for pleasures. And we have spoken about that in one of our recent episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is again one of the ill effects of aping the West for pleasures. So, having spoken about Vivaha Sanskar, I'm wondering whether you could talk about what are the important and compelling sanskars, in the current environment.
The fact that you mentioned Vivaha Sanskar and how it has got so aberrated in the present environment where money is all that matters, whether it's the beautiful clothes, whether it's the delicious foods being served to the guests, whether it's about dowry, which has been a very, very sad packaging, um, essentially transactional packaging behind a very beautiful, intentional phase of life one enters into through, as you said, the vows one needs to take to ensure that the couplehood is starting a shared, prosperous, common life. But more importantly, in how it is ensuring a household where it can bring healthy, intelligent kids, children into the world and ensure that they have a robust and secured life because of the good upbringing. So, to answer your question and also to point to how these intentionalities, sanskars, connect to the Saraswati Sangam project mission, I would actually pick three that are very fundamentally important in the upbringing of children, in the educational journey of children, irrespective of a girl or a boy child. Our children, our Hindu children, go through the process of education, and our Hindu values pay a very high importance to education. And that aligns very strongly with the Saraswati Sangam project in educating our youth that are proud of their heritage and engage with education with intentionality. And these three sanskar are the Yagyopavit sanskar or the Upnayan sanskar, which is done to a boy or a girl child at the age of 5 to 8 when they initiate some kind of education from either parents or a teacher. And this is their first step in taking the vow of being committed to their educational journey. So that's performed in the age of 5 to 8. Thereafter, when the education becomes serious, then you have essentially a Vedarambh or Vidyarambh sanskar, which is conducted with a formal guru. So when the education becomes serious, say at the end of the elementary education years, as one kid is going into the middle school years, is when the education and the effort made to the education becomes really serious. And that's the second intentionality embedding sanskar, which transitions into a kid getting serious about their education, committed to their education, so that thereafter, many years following, they are doing all the behaviors, all the choices that ensure that they're single minded in their garnering of all the educational attributes to become a knowledgeable, well rounded, holistically well rounded, trained, and educated person. And finally, once a student graduates from higher education, let's say a college, that's when you have Samavartan Sanskar. This is the time when a young person, male or female, is basically transitioning from their educational phase to start becoming a productive citizen by working in the workforce, by generating resources for themselves and their family, and creating a robust, prosperous environment in which they can then flourish to get married, to create a household, and give back what they have received in the support and benefits from having a familial structure, parents, and guru, and the educational structure that they have benefited from. So these three sanskars, which is the Yagyopavit, Upanayan sanskar, Vedarambh or Vidyarambh sanskar, and Samavartan sanskar, these three sanskars are very fundamentally important. And we place specific importance to them in our current environment where parents are struggling with giving the right values and the right frame for Hindu kids to be proud of their heritage. And that's the fundamental point of this intentionality. If you're not intentional about what it is you want to learn, what it is you want to know, how do you want to build your personality, which is forever confident, which has the tools to support yourself mentally, physically, but most importantly, spiritually. That's where intentionality becomes most fundamentally important. Do you have the spiritual strength? Have you created the spiritual muscle to be able to hold yourself in all the good, but most importantly, in all the bad times? And that's what our dharma is, probably the richest framework in which to live intentionally and have the support and the benefit of the amazing richness of knowledge and wealth to be able to live a very prosperous, robust, and healthful, both mentally and physically, life. So, this was our packaging, this was our understanding. We wanted to initiate discussion around intentionality, where we have presented these three very key sanskars that bring intentionality in a very important phase of one's life. In future editions of the Leadership Dialogue series, we will dive a little bit deeper into specific sanskars as well as these three sanskar focus to be able to draw for our audience a little bit clearer appreciation for what the purpose of sanskars and these specific sanskars are. I thank you, Dr. Shrikant, for joining me in this discussion.
Thank you.
And thank you very much to our audience for listening in.
Thank you for listening to us.
Namaskar.